Welcome back to the channel The Coin Empire, and today we are diving into one of the most fascinating stories in the world of coin collecting, a story that sounds almost unbelievable yet continues to excite collectors and treasure hunters across the world. Because today we are talking about the mysterious and incredibly valuable 2006 1-cent USA coin that some collectors believe could reach a staggering value of up to $94 million under the right circumstances. And before you think that sounds impossible, remember that rare coin discoveries have shocked the world many times before, because in the world of numismatics, tiny minting mistakes can transform an ordinary 1-cent coin into an extraordinary collectible worth a fortune, and the 2006 penny is one of those coins that has attracted huge attention due to several possible mint errors, unusual variations, and rare conditions that could make a single coin unbelievably valuable if discovered. So imagine reaching into your pocket, checking an old jar of pennies, or opening a forgotten coin collection and suddenly realizing that one small copper-colored coin could potentially change your life forever. And that is exactly why collectors are constantly searching through rolls of pennies hoping to find something extraordinary hidden among the ordinary coins we use every day. Because the 2006 1-cent coin was produced in enormous numbers by the United States Mint, primarily at the Philadelphia and Denver mints, yet even when millions or billions of coins are produced, mistakes can and do happen during the complex minting process, and sometimes those mistakes slip through quality control and enter circulation, where they remain unnoticed for years until a sharp-eyed collector discovers something unusual about them. And one of the most exciting possibilities with the 2006 penny is the presence of dramatic minting errors, such as double die strikes, where parts of the design appear duplicated because the die used to strike the coin had a misalignment during its creation, and collectors carefully inspect the lettering of words like Liberty or the motto "I in God We Trust," looking for slight doubling that could indicate a valuable error variety, because a strong doubled die can turn an otherwise common coin into a prized collectible sought after by serious numismatists. And another possibility that could make a 2006 penny extremely valuable is the presence of an off-center strike, which occurs when the blank coin planchet is not properly aligned with the dies during striking, resulting in a coin where part of the design is missing and the image appears shifted dramatically toward one side. And when such an error is large yet still leaves the date visible, the coin can become extremely desirable to collectors who specialize in mint errors. But the story becomes even more fascinating when we consider the possibility of rare transitional errors where the wrong metal composition or planchet type is accidentally used during minting, because although modern pennies are typically made of copper-plated zinc, there have been rare occasions in mint history when experimental planchets or leftover blanks from another year or denomination were accidentally struck with the wrong design, creating a rare transitional piece that collectors consider a major discovery. And if a 2006 penny were ever discovered struck on an unusual metal such as a different alloy, or even a planchet intended for another denomination, it could instantly become one of the most famous modern mint errors ever found, potentially explaining why collectors speculate about massive valuations reaching into the tens of millions of dollars when such a unique coin appears in perfect condition and attracts international bidding interest. Because rarity combined with collector excitement and historical intrigue can drive prices to astonishing levels at major auctions, and condition is another crucial factor that determines whether a coin becomes merely interesting or truly legendary, because coins that remain in pristine mint state condition without scratches, wear, or discoloration are far rarer than circulated coins that have passed through countless hands, and collectors often send promising coins to professional grading services where experts examine the coin under magnification and assign a grade that reflects its preservation. And when a rare error coin receives an extremely high grade, it becomes even more desirable because it represents one of the finest known examples of that particular variety. And the 2006 penny also offers another intriguing possibility involving die cracks and die breaks, which occur when the metal dies used to strike coins begin to fracture after repeated use, sometimes leaving raised lines or unusual shapes on the surface of the coin where metal flowed into the damaged portion of the die. And some dramatic die break errors can create shapes that collectors nickname with memorable terms, making them instantly recognizable and collectible within the numismatic community. And yet another fascinating error that collectors search for is the broad strike error, where the retaining collar fails during striking, allowing the metal to spread outward beyond its normal diameter, producing a coin that appears flatter and wider than normal. And while such errors may sound minor, they can dramatically increase a coin's value depending on their rarity and visual appeal. But perhaps one of the most exciting discoveries would be a mule error, where two dies that were never intended to be paired together are accidentally used to strike the same coin, creating a design combination that should not exist. And mule coins are among the rarest and most celebrated mint errors in the world because they represent a mistake at the highest level of the minting process. And if a 2006 penny were ever discovered with a mismatched design element from another denomination, it would instantly become a sensation in the coin collecting world, drawing global attention and possibly achieving an astonishing auction price. And the reason stories about coins worth millions capture the imagination of so many people is because they remind us that history and value can hide in the smallest everyday objects. Something as ordinary as a penny can carry a story of industrial production, human error, historical context, and collector passion, all combined into a tiny metal disc. And throughout history, collectors have uncovered coins worth fortunes in pocket change jars, flea markets, and inherited collections that had been sitting unnoticed for decades, which is why enthusiasts encourage people to carefully check their coins rather than assuming they are all ordinary. And even subtle details such as unusual spacing and lettering, missing design elements, rotated dies, clipped planchets, or unusual coloration can indicate a rare mint error that deserves closer examination. And modern technology has made it easier than ever for collectors to examine coins closely using magnification tools, digital microscopes, and online databases that document known error varieties, allowing anyone with curiosity and patience to participate in the search for rare coins. And the excitement surrounding the 2006 1-cent coin valued at a potential $94 million reflects the powerful combination of rarity, mystery, and possibility that drives the hobby of coin collecting. Because while not every 2006 penny will be worth millions, the idea that a single extraordinary example might exist somewhere keeps collectors searching through coin rolls and bank boxes every day, hoping to be the lucky person who discovers the next legendary error coin. And that sense of discovery is what makes numismatics such a fascinating hobby, because each coin represents a small piece of history and craftsmanship that has traveled through time and countless hands before arriving in a collector's collection. So the next time you see a simple penny, remember that even the most common coins can hold extraordinary secrets. And somewhere out there, a rare 2006 penny with a remarkable mint error could still be waiting to be discovered, quietly hiding among ordinary change, until the moment someone finally notices the tiny details that transform it from a 1-cent coin into one of the most valuable treasures in the world. Next, 1973 1-cent coin. Today we are diving into another incredible coin story that has fascinated collectors, treasure hunters, and everyday people who love the idea that a tiny piece of metal could be worth a life-changing fortune. Because today we are talking about the mysterious and extremely valuable 1973 1-cent USA coin that, under certain rare circumstances and extraordinary mint errors, could be valued as high as $90 million. And while that number may sound shocking at first, it perfectly captures the excitement that surrounds rare coins and the surprising world of mint mistakes. Because throughout history, the smallest manufacturing errors have sometimes produced the most valuable collectibles on Earth. And the story of the 1973 Lincoln penny begins at the Denver Mint, where millions of pennies were struck for everyday circulation during the early 1970s. A time when the United States Mint was producing massive quantities of coins to meet the needs of a growing economy. Yet even with advanced machinery and strict quality control, the minting process was never completely perfect. And whenever billions of coins are created, there is always the possibility that a few unusual mistakes slip through unnoticed, eventually entering circulation, where they remain hidden in pockets, jars, drawers, and coin rolls for decades until a sharp-eyed collector discovers something unusual. And this is exactly why collectors all around the world continue to examine old pennies carefully, because a rare error coin can transform a simple 1-cent piece into a treasure worth thousands, millions, or even more depending on its rarity and historical significance. and the 1973 D penny is especially fascinating because several different types of potential minting errors could make a particular example incredibly valuable, beginning with one of the most famous types of coin errors known as the doubled die, which occurs when the working die used to strike coins receives a misaligned impression during the hubbing process, causing parts of the design such as the lettering or numbers to appear doubled on the finished coins, and collectors who specialize in Lincoln cents often inspect the words Liberty and in God We Trust along with the date itself under magnification, looking for signs of doubling that may reveal a rare die variety. And if a strong doubled die were discovered on a 1973 D penny in pristine condition, it could instantly become one of the most exciting finds in the world of modern coin collecting because such varieties attract intense attention from collectors and auction houses alike. But doubled dies are only the beginning of the possible mistakes that could transform an ordinary penny into a legendary coin, because the minting process also involves the careful alignment of blank metal discs called planchets between two dies that strike the coin with tremendous pressure. And if the planchet is not properly centered when the strike occurs, the result can be an off-center coin where the design appears shifted dramatically toward one side, leaving part of the coin blank. And off-center strikes can vary in severity from slight misalignments to dramatic errors where as much as half of the design is missing, yet collectors often prize the most dramatic examples, especially when the date and mint mark remain visible because they clearly identify the coin while showcasing the unusual mistake. And imagine discovering a 1973 D penny with a dramatic off-center strike, preserved in near-perfect condition after decades of being hidden in circulation. Such a coin could easily attract enormous attention and potentially command an astonishing price at auction. And another fascinating possibility involves clipped planchet errors, which occur when the metal strip used to punch out coin blanks overlaps slightly during the cutting process, causing a curved or straight section of the coin to be missing. And these clipped planchet pennies have a distinctive appearance that collectors recognize immediately, particularly when the missing portion forms a smooth arc along the edge of the coin where the blank overlapped another during the punching process. And while minor clips are interesting, large or unusual clips on rare dates can significantly increase a coin's desirability and value, especially when the coin remains in exceptional condition. And beyond these common error types, there are even more dramatic possibilities that can occur during minting, such as die cracks and die breaks, which happen when the hardened steel dies used to strike coins begin to fracture after repeated use, allowing molten metal to flow into the cracks during striking and leaving raised lines or shapes on the coin's surface. And some die breaks become so large that collectors give them memorable nicknames because they create unusual shapes that stand out immediately when examining the coin. And if a rare and dramatic die break were discovered on a 1973 D penny, it could become a highly sought-after collectible within the error coin community. But perhaps one of the most exciting possibilities that fuels speculation about extremely valuable pennies involves the chance that a coin was struck on the wrong type of planchet, a mistake known as a wrong planchet error. Because the United States Mint often produces multiple denominations simultaneously, and sometimes blank planchets intended for one denomination accidentally enter the press used for another coin, resulting in a coin design struck onto the wrong size or metal composition. And such mistakes are incredibly rare, but when they occur, they create coins that collectors consider major numismatic treasures. And if a 1973 D Lincoln cent were ever discovered struck on a planchet intended for another coin, such as a dime or foreign coin blank, the result would be a spectacular rarity that could instantly become famous among collectors worldwide. And in cases where the wrong metal composition is involved, the color and weight of the coin may appear unusual compared to normal pennies, which are typically made from a copper alloy during that era, making the discovery even more exciting because the coin would represent a unique moment when the minting process briefly went off course, creating something that was never meant to exist. And these types of coins sometimes achieve astonishing auction results because collectors recognize that they represent one-of-a-kind artifacts from the minting process. And when collectors talk about the possibility of a 1973 D penny being worth as much as $90 million, they are usually imagining a perfect storm of rarity, condition, historical significance, and collector demand all combining into a single extraordinary coin. Because in the world of numismatics, the value of a coin depends not only on the mistake itself but also on how many examples exist, how dramatic the error appears, and how well the coin has been preserved over time. And this is where coin grading becomes incredibly important, because professional grading services carefully examine coins under powerful magnification to determine their authenticity and condition before sealing them inside protective holders with official grades. And a rare error coin that receives an extremely high grade indicating near perfect preservation can become exponentially more valuable, because collectors know that very few examples survive in such remarkable condition after decades of circulation and handling. And the 1973 D penny also carries historical significance because it belongs to the long-running Lincoln cent series, which began in 1909 and remains one of the most widely collected coin series in American history, meaning that millions of collectors actively search for unusual varieties and errors within the series, hoping to discover something new or rare. And because Lincoln cents are so widely collected, even small varieties can attract huge interest from collectors who want to complete specialized sets that include every known error or die variety. And this level of enthusiasm means that when an extraordinary coin appears on the market, it can trigger intense bidding competition among collectors, investors, and museums who all want to own a piece of numismatic history. And the story of rare pennies becoming incredibly valuable has many precedents, including famous coins that were once ordinary circulation pieces before collectors realized how rare they truly were, which is why the idea of a 1973 D penny worth tens of millions of dollars continues to capture the imagination of people everywhere, because it reminds us that hidden treasures might still exist in everyday places, perhaps sitting unnoticed in an old coin jar, tucked inside a childhood piggy bank, or mixed into rolls of coins at a local bank waiting for someone curious enough to look closely. And that sense of possibility is what keeps collectors searching through thousands of coins every day, hoping to find that one remarkable piece that stands out from the rest, because the smallest detail, such as a slightly doubled letter, an unusual alignment, a strange color, or a missing design element, can be the clue that reveals a rare mint error. And modern collectors often use magnifying glasses, digital microscopes, and online reference guides to compare their coins with known varieties, carefully studying each coin for anything unusual that might indicate a valuable discovery. And although most pennies will remain worth only their face value, the thrill of the search continues to inspire people around the world to explore the fascinating hobby of coin collecting, because each coin carries a story of its creation, its journey through circulation, and the possibility that it might hold a secret waiting to be uncovered. And the legend of the 1973 D 1-cent coin valued at $90 million represents the ultimate version of that dream, where a tiny coin produced for everyday TR. Next, 2001-cent coin. Today we are diving into another fascinating and almost unbelievable story from the world of coin collecting, a story that reminds us that sometimes the smallest and most ordinary objects can hold incredible value. Because today we are talking about the mysterious and extremely valuable 2001-cent USA coin that, under rare circumstances and extraordinary minting mistakes, could be valued as high as $88 million. And while most people see pennies as the least valuable coins in everyday circulation, collectors and numismatists know that hidden among billions of ordinary coins there can occasionally be rare error coins that become legendary discoveries. And the 2000 Lincoln penny is a perfect example of how modern coins can still surprise the collecting world, because the United States Mint produced enormous quantities of pennies that year at the Philadelphia and Denver mints. Yet whenever coins are produced in such massive numbers, the chances of unusual errors and rare variations increase. And even though the mint follows strict quality control procedures, the minting process still involves complex machinery, multiple stages of production, and human oversight, which means that from time to time a mistake can slip through unnoticed and eventually enter circulation. And once a rare error coin enters circulation, it can travel through countless hands over the years, being spent at stores, saved in jars, or tucked away in drawers without anyone realizing that the coin might actually be worth a fortune. And that is exactly why collectors constantly examine their coins carefully, because the next valuable discovery might already be sitting in a pocket, a coin roll from the bank, or an old family collection. And when people talk about the possibility of a 2000 penny being worth $88 million, they are usually imagining a coin with an extremely rare and dramatic mint error combined with perfect preservation and unique historical interest. because in the world of numismatics, value is determined by rarity, condition, demand, and the story behind the coin, and the Lincoln Cent series has always been one of the most widely collected coin series in the United States since it was first introduced in 1909 to honor President Abraham Lincoln, which means that millions of collectors carefully search through Lincoln pennies looking for unusual varieties, mint errors, and rare examples that could complete their collections, and the 2000 penny in particular has attracted attention because of the many types of mint errors that could theoretically appear on coins from that year, starting with one of the most famous and desirable error types known as the double die error, which occurs when the die used to strike the coin receives a slightly misaligned impression during its creation, causing certain parts of the design such as the lettering or numbers to appear doubled on the finished coins. And collectors often examine the words Liberty, In God We Trust, and the date itself under magnification, looking for signs of doubling that indicate a double die variety, because a strong double die can make a coin far more valuable than an ordinary example, and if a rare double die were discovered on a 2000 penny with strong visible doubling and near perfect mint state condition, it could become one of the most exciting modern coin discoveries ever made, attracting huge attention from collectors around the world and potentially reaching astonishing prices at auction. But doubled dies are only one of many possible mistakes that could transform a simple penny into a treasure, because another fascinating type of mint error is the off-center strike, which occurs when the blank planchet is not properly aligned between the dies during the striking process, resulting in a coin where the design is shifted dramatically toward one side, leaving part of the coin blank. And collectors particularly prize off-center coins where the date remains visible, because the date confirms the coin's identity while the unusual strike demonstrates the minting error clearly. And imagine discovering a 2000 penny with a dramatic off-center strike preserved in flawless condition after more than 2 decades of circulation. Such a coin would instantly attract attention from serious collectors, because dramatic mint errors combined with excellent preservation are extremely rare. And another intriguing possibility involves clipped planchet errors, which occur during the blanking stage of coin production when round blanks are punched from long strips of metal, and if the strip overlaps slightly or if a blank is punched too close to the edge, the result can be a coin missing a curved or straight section along its rim, creating a distinctive clipped appearance that collectors recognize immediately. And while small clips are relatively common, larger or more unusual clips can greatly increase a coin's desirability, especially when they occur on a specific date that collectors are actively studying for varieties. And beyond these visible errors, there are also more subtle possibilities such as die cracks and die breaks, which occur when the hardened steel dies used to strike coins begin to develop fractures after repeated use, and when metal flows into those fractures during the striking process, it creates raised lines or shapes on the coin's surface, sometimes forming dramatic patterns that collectors nickname and catalog as unique varieties. And if a particularly dramatic die break were discovered on a 2000 penny, it could become a famous variety among collectors of Lincoln cents, especially if only a small number of examples were found. And another possibility that excites collectors is the broad strike error, which happens when the retaining collar that normally holds the coin in shape during striking fails to function correctly, allowing the metal to spread outward beyond the normal diameter of the coin, resulting in a penny that appears wider and flatter than usual with distorted edges. And while such errors may seem small, they can create visually striking coins that collectors love to add to their collections, because they demonstrate exactly how the minting process can occasionally go wrong. But perhaps one of the most dramatic and valuable possibilities involves a wrong planchet error, where the coin design is accidentally struck on a blank intended for another denomination or even another country's coinage. And these mistakes can occur when planchets from different production lines become mixed together before the striking process. And when such an error happens, the resulting coin can have an unusual size, weight, or color that immediately sets it apart from normal coins. And if a 2000 Lincoln cent were ever discovered struck on a planchet intended for a different denomination, it would be considered a spectacular mint error, and could become one of the most famous modern coins ever discovered, especially if the coin were preserved in near perfect condition. And collectors also watch for mule errors, which occur when two dies that were never meant to be paired together accidentally strike the same coin, creating a design combination that should not exist, and mule coins are among the rarest and most celebrated mint mistakes in numismatic history because they represent an unusual breakdown in the mint's production process. And if a mule error involving a 2000 penny were ever discovered, it would instantly become a sensation within the coin collecting community, drawing worldwide attention and possibly achieving an astonishing price at auction. And the reason people talk about the possibility of such a coin reaching a value of $88 million is because the rarest coins often achieve extraordinary prices when they combine uniqueness, historical importance, and intense collector demand. And throughout history there have been many examples of coins that were once ordinary circulation pieces but later became priceless treasures once collectors realized how rare they truly were. And this is why the search for rare pennies continues to fascinate people everywhere, because the idea that a life-changing discovery could be hiding among everyday coins is both exciting and inspiring. And many collectors spend hours searching through bank rolls of pennies using magnifying glasses and digital microscopes to inspect each coin carefully, looking for unusual features such as doubled letters, rotated dies, missing elements, strange colors, or unusual shapes that might indicate a rare mint error. And sometimes collectors also weigh their coins and compare them with known specifications to see whether the coin might have been struck on the wrong type of metal planchet. And although most coins will turn out to be ordinary, the thrill of the hunt keeps collectors motivated because all it takes is one remarkable discovery to change everything. And the story of the 2000 1-cent coin, possibly worth $88 million, represents the ultimate dream scenario in coin collecting, where a tiny copper-colored coin originally produced for everyday spending becomes a legendary artifact admired by collectors and historians alike. And even if such a coin remains undiscovered today, the possibility that it might still exist somewhere continues to inspire people to look more closely at their spare change, because hidden among billions of ordinary pennies there could still be one extraordinary coin waiting quietly in a jar, a drawer, or a forgotten collection until the moment someone finally notices the unusual details that reveal its true importance. And that moment of discovery is what makes the world of coin collecting so thrilling, because every coin has a story and every coin has the potential to surprise us, reminding us that history, craftsmanship, and unexpected value can sometimes be found in the smallest objects we encounter in everyday life. And the next time you see a next 1984 1-cent coin. Today we are exploring another incredible story from the fascinating world of coin collecting, a world where a tiny piece of metal that most people overlook every day can suddenly become one of the most valuable treasures on Earth. Because today we are talking about the legendary 1984 1-cent USA coin that, under extremely rare circumstances involving minting errors and unusual production mistakes, could be valued at an astonishing $85 million. And while that number sounds unbelievable at first, it perfectly reflects the excitement and mystery that surrounds rare coins and error varieties. Because throughout the history of coin collecting there have been many moments when collectors discovered that a simple coin produced for everyday spending actually contained a rare mistake that transformed it into a priceless collectible. And the 1984 Lincoln penny is especially interesting because it belongs to the long-running Lincoln cent series, which began in 1909 and has remained one of the most popular and widely collected coin series in the United States, meaning millions of collectors constantly search through pennies looking for unusual varieties, rare conditions, and hidden mint errors that might be worth a fortune. And the 1984 penny was struck during a period when the United States Mint was producing billions of pennies each year to keep up with the demand for small change in the economy, with coins being produced primarily at the Philadelphia Mint and the Denver Mint. And whenever coins are produced in such enormous numbers, the possibility always exists that a few unusual mistakes will occur during the minting process, because coin production involves several complicated steps, including the creation of dies, the preparation of metal planchets, the striking process where the design is pressed into the metal under intense pressure, and the final inspection before the coins are released into circulation. And even though the mint uses advanced machinery and strict quality control procedures, mistakes can still happen, sometimes creating coins with unusual features that collectors later identify as rare mint errors. And these errors can make certain coins incredibly valuable, especially when they are rare, dramatic, and preserved in excellent condition. And one of the most famous types of mint error associated with the 1984 penny is the double die error, which occurs when the working die used to strike coins receives more than one impression from the hub during its creation, and the impressions are slightly misaligned, causing certain parts of the design to appear doubled on the finished coins, and collectors often examine the date, the word liberty, and the phrase "I in God we trust" under magnification, looking for signs of doubling that might indicate a valuable variety. And the 1984 double die penny is particularly well known because some examples show noticeable doubling in the design of Abraham Lincoln's ear, which makes the coin stand out clearly when compared with a normal penny, and this type of visible doubling has become famous among collectors because it demonstrates exactly how small misalignments during die creation can produce coins with unusual and collectible characteristics. And when a double die coin is discovered in excellent mint state condition, it can become extremely desirable because collectors know that such coins represent a rare mistake that occurred during the minting process. But double dies are only one of the many possible errors that could transform a simple 1984 penny into a legendary coin worth millions of dollars, because there are numerous other types of mint mistakes that collectors search for when examining their coins, including off-center strikes which occur when the blank metal planchet is not perfectly aligned between the dies during the striking process, resulting in a coin where the design appears shifted toward one side, leaving part of the coin blank, and collectors particularly value off-center coins when the date and mint mark remain visible because the coin can still be identified clearly while displaying the dramatic minting error. And if a 1984 penny were discovered with a major off-center strike preserved in nearly perfect condition, it could become an extremely valuable collectible because dramatic mint errors that remain well preserved are quite rare. And another interesting error type that collectors watch for is the clipped planchet error, which happens earlier in the production process when coin blanks are punched from large sheets or strips of metal, and if the metal strip overlaps slightly, or if a blank is punched too close to the edge, the resulting coin may have a curved or straight section missing from its edge, creating a distinctive clipped appearance that collectors recognize immediately. And while small clipped planchets are not extremely rare, larger or more dramatic clips can significantly increase the value of a coin, especially when they occur on a specific year that collectors are actively studying for varieties and errors. And beyond these errors, there are also fascinating possibilities involving die cracks and die breaks, which occur when the hardened steel dies used to strike coins begin to develop fractures after striking large numbers of coins. And when metal flows into those cracks during the striking process, it forms raised lines or shapes on the coin's surface, which collectors can identify as evidence of die damage. And sometimes these die breaks become so dramatic that they create unusual patterns on the coin that collectors give nicknames to because the shapes resemble familiar objects or symbols. And such coins can become famous within the collecting community because they illustrate the wear and stress that minting equipment experiences during large production runs. And another possibility that could make a 1984 penny extremely valuable is a broad strike error, which occurs when the retaining collar that normally surrounds the coin during the striking process fails to hold the planchet in place properly, allowing the metal to spread outward beyond the normal diameter of the coin and creating a coin that appears wider and flatter than usual with distorted edges. And broad strike errors can be visually striking and collectible because they show exactly how the coin's shape depends on the collar during production. But perhaps the most dramatic and valuable type of mint mistake that collectors dream of discovering is the wrong planchet error, where the design of one coin is accidentally struck on a blank intended for a different denomination or even a different country's coinage. And this can happen when planchets from separate production lines become mixed together before entering the coin presses, and the resulting coin may have an unusual weight, size, or color that immediately reveals something unusual about its composition. And if a 1984 Lincoln cent were ever discovered struck on a planchet meant for another denomination, it would instantly become one of the most famous modern mint errors ever found, drawing worldwide attention from collectors and auction houses. And such a coin could potentially command an extraordinary price if collectors recognized it as a unique or extremely rare mistake from the minting process. And another fascinating possibility involves mule errors, which occur when two dies that were never intended to be paired together are accidentally used to strike the same coin, creating a combination of designs that should not exist according to official mint specifications. and mule coins are among the rarest and most celebrated mint errors because they represent a major breakdown in the mint's production system. And if a mule error involving a 1984 penny were ever discovered, it would instantly become a legendary coin within the numismatic community because collectors value coins that tell unusual stories about how they were created. And when people talk about the possibility of a 1984 penny reaching a value of $85 million, they are usually imagining the discovery of a coin that combines extreme rarity with a dramatic and easily recognizable mint error along with exceptional preservation, because condition plays a huge role in determining a coin's value. And coins that remain in mint state condition without signs of wear or damage are far more valuable than coins that have circulated heavily, and collectors often submit promising coins to professional grading services where experts examine them under magnification and assign official grades that certify both their authenticity and their condition. And when a rare error coin receives an extremely high grade, it can become even more desirable because collectors know that very few examples have survived in such remarkable condition after decades of circulation. And this combination of rarity, condition, and collector demand is what sometimes drives coin prices to astonishing levels at major auctions where collectors compete fiercely for the opportunity to own a unique piece of numismatic history. And the story of the 1984 penny valued at $85 million captures the imagination of people around the world because it reminds us that incredible discoveries can still happen in the most ordinary places, perhaps hidden in an old coin jar, mixed into a roll of pennies from the bank, or sitting unnoticed in a forgotten collection for years before someone finally examines it closely enough to recognize its unusual features. And this sense of possibility is what makes coin collecting such an exciting hobby because every coin has the potential to reveal something unexpected, whether it is a rare variety, a dramatic mint error, or simply a beautifully preserved example of history that has survived decades of circulation. And many collectors spend hours searching through pennies using magnifying glasses, microscopes, and reference guides to comb. Last 1981 1-cent coin. Today we are exploring another fascinating mystery from the world of coin collecting where something as small and ordinary as a penny can suddenly become one of the most valuable objects a collector could ever dream of finding. Because today we are talking about the incredible story of the 1981 1-cent USA coin that under extremely rare circumstances and unique minting mistakes could reach an astonishing value of $80 million. And while most people see pennies as the least important coins in their pocket change, collectors and numismatists know that hidden among billions of ordinary coins there can occasionally be rare errors that completely transform a simple coin into a historic treasure, and the Lincoln Penny series itself has been one of the most widely collected coin series in the United States since it was first introduced in 1909 to honor President Abraham Lincoln, making it a favorite target for collectors who search carefully through rolls of pennies hoping to discover rare varieties, unusual mint errors, or coins preserved in extraordinary condition. And the year 1981 is especially interesting because it came right before a major change in the composition of the penny which happened in 1982 when the United States Mint switched from the traditional copper-based composition to a copper-plated zinc core, meaning that 1981 pennies represent some of the last coins produced primarily from the older copper alloy, and because the mint was producing enormous numbers of pennies at that time in facilities such as the Denver Mint, which is identified by the small d mint mark on the coin, the massive scale of production created opportunities for mistakes to occur within the complicated minting process, and coin production involves several important stages including preparing the metal strips, punching out blank planchets, annealing and cleaning those blanks, creating the dies that carry the coin design, and finally striking the coins under tremendous pressure so the design is permanently impressed into the metal surface. And even though the United States Mint has extremely strict quality control procedures, the reality is that when billions of coins are produced each year, some unusual mistakes inevitably slip through and enter circulation unnoticed. And those mistakes can sometimes become extremely valuable decades later once collectors identify them and realize how rare they are. And one of the most fascinating possibilities involving the 1981 penny is the existence of double die errors which occur when the die used to strike coins receives more than one impression from the hub during its creation and those impressions are slightly misaligned, causing certain parts of the design, such as the lettering, numbers, or portrait details, to appear doubled on the final coin, and collectors often examine areas such as the word liberty, the phrase "I in God we trust," and the date itself using magnification tools in order to detect the subtle but important signs of doubling that might indicate a rare variety, because strong double die coins can become extremely valuable, especially when the doubling is clearly visible without magnification and when the coin is preserved in high-grade mint state condition. And if an exceptionally strong double die 1981D penny were discovered today with crisp details and minimal wear, it could attract enormous attention within the coin collecting community and potentially achieve an extraordinary auction price, because collectors are always searching for new and dramatic varieties within the Lincoln Cent series. But doubled dies are only one type of minting mistake that could make a coin extremely valuable, because another fascinating possibility is an off-center strike error, which occurs when the blank planchet is not properly aligned between the dies during the striking process, resulting in a coin where the design appears shifted toward one side and a blank crescent shaped area appears on the opposite side of the coin, and off-center strikes can vary widely in severity, with some coins showing only slight misalignment, while others display dramatic errors where as much as half of the design is missing, and collectors especially prize examples where the date and mint mark remain visible, because the coin can still be clearly identified while displaying the striking error. And if a dramatic off-center 1981D penny were discovered in pristine condition after decades of circulation, it could become a highly desirable collectible, because dramatic mint errors combined with excellent preservation are extremely rare. And another type of error that collectors frequently search for is the clipped planchet error, which happens earlier in the minting process when round blanks are punched from large sheets or strips of metal. And if the punching process overlaps slightly or occurs too close to the edge of the strip, the resulting blank may have a curved or straight portion missing from its rim, creating a distinctive clipped appearance once the coin is struck. And clipped planchet coins can be fascinating to collectors because they show how the blank metal discs were originally cut before becoming finished coins. And while small clips may not be extremely rare, larger or more dramatic clips on specific dates can increase a coin's desirability and value, especially when they appear on coins that are already being studied for unusual varieties. And beyond these visible errors, there are also fascinating possibilities involving die cracks and die breaks, which occur when the hardened steel dies used to strike coins begin to develop fractures after striking large numbers of coins during production. And when molten metal flows into those cracks during the striking process, it forms raised lines or shapes on the surface of the coin, which collectors can identify as evidence of die damage. And some die breaks become large enough to form unusual shapes that collectors give memorable nicknames to because the patterns resemble familiar objects, making them easy to identify and highly collectible within the numismatic community. And another unusual mint error that could make a 1981D penny incredibly valuable is the broad strike error, which occurs when the retaining collar that normally surrounds the coin during the striking process fails to hold the planchet in place properly, allowing the metal to spread outward beyond the normal diameter of the coin, resulting in a penny that appears wider and flatter than usual with distorted edges. And broad strike coins can be visually dramatic and collectible because they clearly demonstrate how the collar normally controls the final shape of the coin during production. But perhaps the most exciting and potentially valuable possibility for a 1981D penny would involve a wrong planchet error, where the design of the penny is accidentally struck on a blank intended for another denomination or even another country's coinage. And such errors can occur when planchets from different production lines become mixed together before the striking stage, and when this happens, the resulting coin may have a completely different weight, color, or size compared with normal pennies, making it immediately noticeable to collectors who carefully study their coins. And wrong planchet errors are among the most dramatic and desirable mint mistakes because they represent a moment when the minting process briefly went off course, creating a coin that was never intended to exist. And if a 1981D Lincoln Cent were ever discovered struck on an unusual planchet, it would likely become a sensational discovery in the coin collecting world, attracting intense interest from collectors, investors, and museums alike. And another rare possibility that collectors dream about is a mule error, which occurs when two dies that were never meant to be paired together accidentally strike the same coin, creating a design combination that should not exist according to official mint specifications, and mule coins are extremely rare because they require a very unusual mistake during the die installation process at the mint, and when such coins are discovered they often become legendary within the numismatic community because they represent one of the most unusual types of minting error imaginable. And if a mule involving a 1981 D penny were ever found, it could instantly become one of the most famous modern coins ever discovered, potentially commanding an extraordinary price if collectors competed to acquire it at auction. And when people talk about the possibility of a 1981 D penny reaching a value of $80 million, they are usually imagining the discovery of a coin that combines several extraordinary factors, including an extremely rare mint error, exceptional preservation, historical interest, and intense collector demand, because in the world of coin collecting, value is determined not only by the rarity of the coin but also by how well it has been preserved over time, and coins that remain in mint state condition with sharp details and minimal marks are far more valuable than coins that have circulated heavily and developed scratches or wear. Which is why collectors often submit promising coins to professional grading services where experts examine the coin under powerful magnification to confirm its authenticity and assign it an official grade that reflects its condition, and when a rare error coin receives a very high grade, it becomes even more desirable because collectors know that only a tiny number of such coins survive in that level of preservation after decades of handling and circulation. And this combination of rarity, condition, and collector enthusiasm is what sometimes drives the prices of rare coins to astonishing levels during major auctions where passionate collectors compete to own unique pieces of numismatic history. And the story of the 1981 D1 cent coin potent